Greetings, everybody. We're going to call this meeting to order. The very first item on our agenda is a presentation with the Washington County Museum of Fine Arts and the American Alliance of Museums Accreditation Peer Review, and I'm going to invite our guests to please come to the table. Right here at the end is fine. Yeah, you can pull up chairs. We just ask that you try to speak into the microphones for everybody.
We'll take turns, all right. We'll do musical chairs.
The ladies in the middle and then
There we go.
Hi.
Well, is this close enough?
Yes,
Does
I
that
believe
work?
so.
Okay.
Sure.
Well, you
Can't
have to
tell.
wait till Don comes back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
He may tell you to get closer.
All right, thank you.
Don, you want to know if they're close enough to the mic?
Can you hear
have
me?
Can you hear?
Oh, good. Well, we thank you for sharing a bit of your time with us today. Because of our long relationship with the city and your having helped found the museum, we wanted to be sure that you had a chance to meet Bob Burns, who is here, from the Mattituck Museum in Connecticut, and Martha Morris, who is on the faculty of the Museum Studies program at George Washington University, and they are our peer reviewers for our reaccreditation with the American Alliance of Museums. So we've been spending the day sharing with them every nook and cranny of the museum, and meeting with staff and trustees. Al Martin is the new president of our Board of Trustees. He presided over his first executive committee meeting this morning with great enthusiasm and zeal. So we just thought it would be good for them to meet City Council. You are the living embodiment of the people who helped found this museum and carrying on the grand tradition of keeping it one of the great attractions in this area.
And this accreditation process will keep you as one of the four only accredited fine arts museums?
4 fine arts museums in the state of Maryland. So it's quite an honor to achieve that and an equal honor to keep it. We're held to high standards.
Indeed.
It wasn't too long ago that it was only 3.
That's true. There now is a new smaller museum on the Eastern Shore in Easton. We do have the distinction of being the only accredited fine art museum in Western Maryland. And the 2 other major museums in Maryland are the Baltimore Museum of Art and the Walters Art Gallery in downtown Baltimore. So it's truly something very special and unique for our community. And we're so excited that this year is the 85th year since we opened our doors in 1931. And through a public-private partnership with a group of citizens in 1928, and that was formalized in 1929, in August of 29. The city leaders at that time signed agreements with the nonprofit board and with the singers to agree for the singers to provide the funds to construct our beautiful museum and to provide works of art from their art collection if the city and county agreed to operate and maintain the facility. And the city at that time also granted us a 99-year lease for the land in City Park where the museum building
So we need to
sits.
start talking
So we'll be
about that
coming to
soon.
you.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
hard to believe that will be coming up soon.
Yeah. Just a few years. Well, I have to tell you, I visited the Brook Green Gardens this past week.
Oh, good.
And I forgot, I left my phone in the car, but I was gonna get a selfie with the Diana of the
I'm
Chase
sorry.
down there because, and to personally thank them for allowing us to have the license to the image of the Diana of the
And you
Chase.
might embellish on that because we haven't talked, I've informed our reviewers of the cultural trail, of course,
Oh,
and we
sure.
drove by it on the way over, but they haven't heard that piece about the Diana image being the logo.
Yeah, the
for
logo
new
for our
trail.
Cultural Arts
Oh.
Trail will be the image of the Diana
Yes.
of the Chase.
Okay,
And
excellent.
it's an interesting, the Huntingtons, of course, who founded the Brook Green Gardens, and Anna, who did the sculpture, I apparently had a relationship with the singers and knew what they were trying to do here. And, yeah, so this body especially values public art, and we courageously move forward with some expenditures to make some improvements to really attract visitors, artists alike to the core of our city. And really, I like to say we're connecting our 2 arts and entertainment districts. We have an official arts and entertainment district downtown with anchors like our Maryland Theater, our Barbara Ingram School for the Arts, many other theaters and museums or galleries. And we're connecting that with this trail to our city park, which I like to consider our second unofficial arts and entertainment district, because of course we have the Museum of Fine Arts, but we also have our Founders House, the Hager House, the Mansion House Art Gallery, the band shell where our municipal band that's been in existence for over 100 years lives, the Railroad Museum. So that's, to us, we think that that's going to be a critical link in further developing our central part of our city. And of course, the museum hosts free events for the public throughout the year. I just can't say enough good things about the museum and all the work that they do.
It's been a good collaborative partnership over the years, and our community really has benefited from it. It's something unique that most cities can say they didn't have. And I was sharing earlier today as a kid, growing up 2 blocks south of City Park, how I just took that for granted, that every community had something like that. And it wasn't until I got in college that I realized truly how special and unique it is, and how valuable that is as an asset to our community and its citizens.
Well, and when you think that it was getting off the ground at the very beginning of the Great Depression, and that our forefathers and mothers had enough sense to keep continuing to invest in the Fine Arts Museum and in arts in general, really says something about their vision and their foresight and the value of art in the community.
It did, and these agreements were signed in August of 1929, several months before the stock market crashed and the Great Depression began, and this community went ahead and completed that vision.
And I'm
So-
sure that wasn't an easy decision to make back then.
No, I'm sure it was questioned quite a bit, but look at what an asset we have now for future generations.
Right. And what is it, the museum worth stopping for in the state of Maryland?
Oh, yes.
According to TripAdvisor.
The TripAdvisor's blog called Flip Key named us museums worth traveling to see, or worth.
And there's one in every state. and
One in
we're
every
the
state.
one for Maryland.
We are it for Maryland for this year. So, have you been there yet for Connecticut? Yes.
I'd just like to say that the American Alliance of Museums really appreciates the kind of commitment that local government is giving to our museums across the country, and you guys have been doing a fabulous job, and certainly we hope that it'll continue to be a great support for this great museum in your community.
Well, I think at least I know everyone sitting around this table is committed, and I think from when you sit in this chair or in any of these chairs and you have to be in this position, it's so easy to look to the arts as one of those easy things to say, well, people don't need this, so we can cut this from our budget. But I think it's really takes some intestinal fortitude and leadership to say, and vision to say, no, this is a valuable investment. And I think it was the SAGE report from 2012 referenced that for every $1 you spend on arts and education, you get a $2 return on investment. So there really is something to be said for investing in the arts, I believe.
Well, as the volunteer board chair, I just want to thank our staff and the American Association of Museums for their effort. This reaccreditation process is a little bit like your police reaccreditation. This for us happens every 10 years, and the staff has put a lot of work into our self-study, self-assessment, the documents that have come in preparing for our on-site reviewer visit today and tomorrow. And also, it's a wonderful tool for us to help make sure that we are following best practices in the museum industry. It's a great reason for us to do something we should be doing anyway, which is updating and maintaining our institutional or strategic plan, and basically setting other goals and targets that have helped us stay current and relevant and will help keep us that way long into the future.
Excellent. Did you guys have any questions for us, or?
I think so.
Well, we hope you enjoy your stay here in Hagerstown. Thank you so much. And you have a reception this evening, correct?
Yes, please, if you're free, come from between 6:15 and 7:15. I know you're busy, but maybe you'll have a short agenda.
Yes, if you need to get away, please come join us and enjoy some refreshments out at the museum this
Make a
evening.
couple of comments, please. Well, first, thank you for being here. Secondly, please understand that we have a very limited list of organizations that we can afford to support. I think it's fair to say that the museum is at the very top of those organizations. We certainly appreciate that. And this needs to be said too. We have a lot of assets in this community. But one of our assets in this community is a person by the name of Rebecca Massey Lane.
Thank you.
She has been the leader of the museum for a long time. And she has been a sensational, successful leader. And she deserves a lot of credit. I know she lives, this is her life, basically. And we've had some really, really good leaders at the museum in the past, but she has been incredible. And we hope that that continues for a long time more.
You're very kind. Thank you so much.
Well, the truth's the truth.
I appreciate that.
And it needs to be said,
confidence.
Thank you.
Thank you for your kind words and for all that you do for us and for the city of Hagerstown. We appreciate it. And come visit.
Thank
The
you.
Snally Gaster's closed this Sunday.
I'm looking forward to that macabre.
The macabre
Yeah,
will be opening.
I'm hopefully gonna be there for the
This
opening.
season, Halloween, so
Yeah.
look forward to it.
Yeah,
It's very scary. Some of the images are chilling.
that's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
for the support.
All right, next up is a street closure request. Hi, Lauren.
Hi.
Wow, the street looks very different.
Some imaging there to check out while we begin the presentation. So we're here to talk to you about Fireball Run. The mayor was actually contacted in regards to this and asked that staff look into it. Fireball Run is a show that airs most notably on Amazon Prime. If you can think of the US map, that's basically a game board whereby 40 teams go on Trivial Pursuit-like quests. The contestants are millionaires, billionaires, independently wealthy people who can afford to take time off and tape the show. There are featured and interactive destinations. Featured destinations, if you think of it like in terms of a sandwich, they're kind of the bread and the meat of the sandwich. Then they have interactive destinations, which I think are like the condiments. So they've requested that Hagerstown be an interactive destination. It's an opportunity for us to promote Hagerstown on a wider audience, a national, global audience. And it's also an opportunity for us to showcase a lot of our community pride, our downtown, what we have to offer people who would be interested in visiting here. I do have a short video clip in addition to some of these images that you're seeing. And to give you an idea of what you'll see, the contestants all come driving into each of these towns, cheering, welcoming the contestants. It's actually, in the clip that you'll see, it's something that's very moving for some of the people to see everyone so excited for them. Another key component of this is they work to reunite missing children. So you'll see them handing out the missing children cards to the people who are attending and welcoming them. The mayor also makes a presentation, so you'll see that. And during part of their stop, they have 30 minutes where they can either get lunch. If they don't want to get something to eat, they can also go shopping in some of the restaurants or shopping in some of the businesses. I don't think this particular clip has that, but this will give you an idea of kind of what we would see in Hagerstown if this comes to fruition.
Or buffering.
like what looks to be half the city came out to welcome us.
Oh my God, it's really hard not to get emotional at a time like this. Just
Yeah, while we load. So the actual filming of this is pretty quick considering. We're looking at probably a 3-hour window in which filming will actually happen in downtown. We're looking for about a 4-ish hour street closure just to allow for preparation for trash removal to make sure everything is cleaned up and taken care of. So on the map, you can see the actual closure in question kind of encompasses Public Square and includes the first block of South Potomac Street. As a detour on North Potomac Street, we will have the central lot will remain open and cars can detour through central lot and exit onto East Washington Street. The biggest potential impact is just with the closure of Washington Street up to Prospect, as well as just the first block of South Potomac Street. So we're going to have detours aligned there, and the reason for the street closure not only is for the large crowd that will be expected to attend, but the contestants drive their cars into the location. We'll have them parked on the streets as a bit of a display so people can look at that. And we're looking at cars that are very modest to cars, Aston Martin's very nice cars. So providing a bit of a nice car show as well as part of the filming process. So the actual closure, like I said, is 3 hours, and during that time we are working with local museums and restaurants and shops to be open earlier hours. They have a 30-minute window when they're not competing, looking for their scavenger hunt hints in the downtown area to visit the local merchants. So we are working to make sure the Fire Museum is open, the Maryland Theater will be open for tours, to make sure we're really promoting the best parts of downtown Hagerstown to be featured. Yeah, you want to try again?
Right now, we're headed to Amesbury, Massachusetts.
Then we're rolling into a little town called Amesbury, the only stop in Massachusetts.
thousands are expected for events in Amesbury.
I think we get the gist of it.
So you kind of get the gist. It's a lot of children. We're reaching out to the local schools to see if they'll allow the children out, mainly for the earlier presentation, which the mayor will present a proclamation to the host. The actual filming will be from 10:30 in the morning to 1 p.m., so it should be relatively minimal disruptions. We'll miss the morning rush and also the evening rush in the area. So it should be pretty minimal disruptions to the area, but it is 2 of our busier streets that we're looking to close for the production itself. You are all obviously welcome to attend and to show your support for this great production that wants to feature Hagerstown.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of the show?
So the goal, one of the major goals is to reunite missing children. So it is a goal to essentially, each team is assigned 1,000 flyers. They're giving them out to contestants when the contestants are providing them to different attendees. The goal is to reunite missing children is the main objective, while featuring local and smaller cities along the country that might be missed on the tourist map but provide great historical value to our country.
But if you can imagine, you know, like geocaching, that's a pretty interesting thing. This is kind of like a real-time, they're not geocaching, but they're looking for historic artifacts, interesting community features, and that they're programmed. Each team is given like a mission to accomplish while they're in that particular community.
So you don't know the purpose specific to the visit here?
We can't release the locations that they're visiting in
Okay.
Hagerstown for the integrity of the filming, but
I'm just trying to figure out how the two are
Yeah.
interlinked, the whole missing children promotion and the looking for historic venues and artifacts.
Yeah, I think it's the show is a source of entertainment on the channels in which it airs, and they do reuniting the missing children is kind of a philanthropic angle with the show. They're not actually looking for the missing children in the communities.
I always get cautious of that, you know, the next day we're gonna read in the paper that we're like, you know, the #1 city in the world for, you know, missing and exploited children, so. I don't wanna be on another list.
Understand that.
Is everyone good with the street closure? We can put that on for our regular session this month. If there's no objections. All right. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Looking
Hopefully you
forward to
guys
it.
can all attend.
Yeah,
The
I'm
production.
planning on it. It's on my calendar.
That's good for Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
And apologies for the technical difficulties. Everyone
That's
here
okay.
saw it while you were in executive session.
Well, and if you want to send us the links, people
Yeah, I can
could,
do that.
can
Yeah.
view
It's a
them at home.
20-minute reel though, so
Yeah.
watch selectively.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item are land management code amendments. Beekeeping has been a source of many emails going back and forth this week.
I understand that.
And we have some philosophical differences about what constitutes livestock in the city of Hagerstown.
If you'd
What
like,
about the chickens?
Chickens, I can see,
Okay, that's
you
all.
can consider livestock. I'm okay with that, because chickens run away and you can fence them in. Bees, you cannot fence in. They do not create a byproduct that is harmful to human health, like
Well, I mean,
chickens and
I
cows.
don't think there's a
and-
philosophical difference. The language is the language, and the person we employ to interpret it interprets it. And if somebody has an grievance to that, they challenge it. Right?
Or you amend the text to permit it. But as of right now, the way the ordinance is written, they're animals that are kept for their byproduct, therefore they're livestock. So if it's the will of this body to want to begin permitting property owners or residents to do beekeeping on their properties, we would need to process a text amendment and look at ways other jurisdictions have done so in a manner to also protect the interest of adjacent property owners.
Well, I think that may be, at least for me, the more appropriate conflict. In other words, I guess for me, when I was participating in these discussions, my discussion or point of view or perspective was to ensure that, in your average neighborhood, where I live or where Lou or anyone else lives, that, on a quarter-acre lot, you're not subject to that adjacent or adjoining agricultural production. I don't think that I was envisioning in those conversations, a 150-acre parcel out on the outskirts of town that happens to be in town, that isn't yet developed as a development, you know what I mean, that's still in agricultural production or agricultural land use as being a prohibited location. And so I think they're significantly different context of that conversation. I don't have a problem if it's a functioning farm or it's classified as an agricultural land use or zone.
Well, we don't have any agricultural land use.
Well, we don't have any
currently.
agricultural zones.
We have one agricultural property, zone property.
But that's up by Long Meadow, right?
No, it's out on Jefferson Boulevard.
But there's still land that is classified as agricultural use.
That's
The
correct.
use and zone can be two different things, right?
That's correct. And then we do have other properties, like you mentioned, that are in other zoning districts, but they haven't been
So-
developed yet. Their historic use has been farming.
So let's
and
take Howell
agriculture.
Road as a prime example.
Yeah.
15 years ago, it was supposed to become a housing development. I don't know if it's been that long now. And it didn't happen. So until that happens, it's still an agricultural use. And I guess I just didn't envision that as being the prohibited location as much as I did. I don't want to see it, in the 700 block of Guilford Avenue.
So-
is that zoned, commercial now?
The Howell Road area is,
Howell Road,
it's industrial, yeah.
industrial?
I am, yeah.
I think we're fixing something that isn't broken. I understand how everything reads right now. I also understand that in our collective lives in the city of Hagerstown, there's never been a beekeeping problem like there's been a chicken keeping problem. And, I think we leave things as they are, and we enforce the current code the same way we enforce other laws with common sense. We don't pull people over for doing 27 miles an hour we don't even have our speed cameras set to give people tickets if they're exceeding 10 miles an hour, and that's against the law. We use common sense enforcement. We don't go out to Howell Road and say, geez, we just found out that you actually have bees and we're shutting you down. In the same respect, you get the call from what does not seem to exist, because I suspect that people who are really serious about beekeeping understand that it's not a practical thing to do in the type of areas that Kristen is talking about. And I can tell you, growing up, I know it's not in the city of Hagerstown, but I know we had friends that had hives out in Fountainhead. And it was open enough that, and I've never personally heard anybody complain ever about beekeeping. So I think I would suggest we just leave it as it is, and we enforce it the way it's been enforced throughout the history of this city, and that's been a complaint-driven process. And if we find that we really have an issue that we need to deal with, then we can deal with it.
I think you're absolutely right.
So in other words, under what you're saying, it would continue to be not permitted.
It continue to be the way it's been in this city.
Which is prohibited
which
in
is-
zones that do not allow for agricultural uses.
That's correct.
Right.
I mean, I think
Unless
that's-
they're grandfathered in as an agricultural use.
That's what I'm saying, so there's no need to change it.
Right.
Exactly.
So there's no desire to permit them, given certain conditions, lot size,
I
setback?
have no desire for that.
No
If
desire.
your land is in agricultural use, is grandfathered in as agricultural use, I have no problem with it. But the idea of allowing it, encouraging it in traditional residential neighborhoods, to me, is unacceptable.
Okay.
I mean,
Anyone
there's
else?
a reason that Mr. Smith doesn't keep his bees at his address in the halfway area.
Sure.
You know, that he keeps it out of Howell Road. I mean, and that's.
Right.
you know,
Well, there
like
are
I said, I
common
think it's
sense
common
reasons for that too. I mean, there have to be enough food sources for the bees.
Yeah,
you know,
I
there's-
would imagine it's just not a practical thing for somebody to keep beehives in their yard, the type of yard I have. I don't think it works.
There's a lot of exaggerated language in here that we're anti-bee and all this kind of thing, and simply isn't true. It's just not practical in most of our land use situations.
Right, and it's,
But I think we can afford to, where it's in a rural area that might someday be industrial or commercial.
again, I just think we're fixing something that isn't broken.
Any other, with
But
the
we're not
land management code
anti-bee,
updates?
for God's sake.
Sounds like we have a consensus to leave things as they are.
Does that include not adding that one word to the definition, just leave it literally as it is?
Yep, just leave it the way it is.
Well, we're going by your review of how it's enforced now.
Right. Which would mean you don't have to you don't have to specify bees then.
It still meets the definition, as
You're
I
already
explained.
interpreting it as livestock.
Correct. The amendment that we put in was a clarifier. It was not changing any existing practice, so.
Got it. Any other updates with the land management code amendments?
We had our public hearing, nobody testified. The only communication we received since the hearing was what we've just been discussing about the bees. We would, if you're okay with us moving forward, we would need a few weeks to collate all these into a draft. As I mentioned prior, instead of adopting amendments this time, what we would be doing is repealing the entire land management code and then readopting with the changes for a number of reasons. But it also is going to require us to go back and double check all the cross-references, because if you change something, it could possibly throw cross-referencing off. That's going to be a bit time-consuming. So we were looking at introduction in September. That gives us a little over a month to make that work happen. Then it would be adopted in October, effective November.
Got it.
There's still one item that I have a problem with, and that's item number 2, which is height of retaining walls. I mean, I read your logic of, as it applies to sheds, which I still don't understand why we don't require a zoning certificate for everything that requires zoning compliance. That to me just doesn't make sense. But, in the last year, we've dealt with debate and dialogue between at least 2 private property owners for aging of what we would classify as retaining walls at less than 48 inches. And in here, we're still going to require them to meet that 3-foot setback. And I don't, if you're not requiring a permit, and somebody puts up a 9-inch, curb or wall, I guess if that's what you want to call it, between the properties, I guess I just don't follow that.
Would the thought to be to create a minimum height requirement for it to apply for, or just not have the setback
that would be
for
my
those that are
preference.
under 48?
I think that's my preference. I think that's a good solution, is some minimum. 18 inches or something that isn't so nominal. I mean, you got private property owners that are creating, these small separations all the time, whether it's their driveways or fence lines or what have you.
Say 24 to 48
So-
would be the 3-foot setback, and then the 6 foot over 48? And
I
then it
don't
would be
know.
nothing under 2 feet?
Yeah, I just think that there has to be some minimum amount for staff to be able to, I don't know what the word is,
Exercise some reason in
Yeah.
the situation, yeah.
yeah. Or else you can be caught in the middle of a lot more instances than I think that you want to be.
Well, we'd be happy to change that wording, tweak it a little bit if that's the will of this body. I just need some guidance on exactly where you would want to set it. I mean, 2 foot seems reasonable.
Any other thoughts on that?
You've made a
That
reason.
seems reasonable to you, and that's reasonable to me.
So a retaining wall, 2 feet or less, no setback, 2 feet to 4 feet is a 3-foot setback. Above 4 feet is a 6-foot setback.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
Any other thoughts, feedback on the land management code amendments?
Is that subject to an exception, or is that rigid?
They could, if somebody could apply for a variance to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Anything else? All right, well, thanks so much. We'll, like you said, be back next month with the introduction after you go back and make all those changes. Sounds good. The next item is the 60 West Washington Street update on the Bureau box.
Good evening.
Welcome.
I'm here this evening to update you all on the Borough Box and also get your support for the branding and signage for that building. The Borough Box is gonna be a membership-based co-working space, and in the packet that was submitted, there were some before and after photos that show the space with the furniture and the floor decals, in there. So when a member signs up, they'll receive a membership kit, which would include a thumb drive with a downloadable reference material about how to use the space, as well as some various business startup resources would be located on that thumb drive. They'd also get a member number and a key fob to access the space. There are 2 offices that will be available for lease. They're approximately 100 square feet each. And at a basic membership, for $50 a month, these are draft pricing, but for $50 a month, you would have benefits that included access to the common workspace and conference room area for 7 days a week from about 8 to 7 p.m., 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., 200 black and white and 20 color copies per month, free access to lockers, so you could lock up your laptop to go out and have lunch if you wanted, or keep some of your papers and things like that there. Business mailing address, high-speed internet access, and also access to free or discounted workshops or events at the Borough Box. The office leases for the 2 spaces would be about $100 a month and would include the benefits that I just mentioned, but also you'd have the lockable office space, you'd have unlimited access to the entire space, and then additional black and white copies and colored copies would be available as well. So like I said, the pricing is a draft pricing, so any feedback you guys would provide on that, I would appreciate to hear. And also for programming, we would be working with some of our community partners, USMH, Frostburg, SCORE, and the Small Business Development Center would be helping to kind of use the space for programming, as well as one-on-one mentoring and other services that they already offer throughout the community. And in your packet for the branding of the building, I'm proposing 60 West, and I put a conceptual mock-up of what the building would look like with the 60 West branded, and then listing the various tenants that are in the space. And then a directory on the side of the building. This was on the left-hand side of the building that would have directional arrows to direct you around to the side of the building, where in this sketch, we could brand the entrance to the Borough Box with a larger sign that said Suite A Borough Box, and then the subsequent entrances to USMH would also be shown on the doors. And so with your support on branding the building as 60 West, and then any feedback on the signage, I would continue and move forward with that signage and get it through HDC and all the other processes.
I think we should just continue to call it the old CVS.
That will not work.
That was the hardest thing for me to get used to. I don't know the old CBS.
Yeah. I'm looking at your budget in the back there. the
Yes.
Anticipated revenue of 4,200. So if you have 2 locked offices at $100 each a month, you're looking at then potentially 82 members, correct?
Well, this was,
That's at $4,000 at $50 a month would be 80 people. Is that, or what do you see as the maximum or goal membership
the
in the first year?
membership could, we could comfortably fit 25 people. So
Okay.
this 4,200 was just a conservative estimate that was built into the FY17 budget.
Okay.
Which, when we did the numbers, roughed out to about 7 members a month.
Oh,
And we
okay.
can
Gotcha.
obviously exceed above and beyond that.
Yeah,
As
I
we-
just realized I didn't do the math right. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Looking at monthly
Math is
versus
not
yearly.
right.
monthly,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Don, go ahead.
I have a question. Just a quick one, Don. The duration of the enhanced office thing where you get a dedicated space, how large is that space, and is there any limitation on how long any one party can have that space?
There's no limitation. It's about 100 square feet, a little less than 100
10
square
by
feet.
10, okay.
And everything will be on a monthly basis. So
Yeah.
if a tenant were to keep it for a few months, that's,
But is there
So
any?
they're not
what
locked
if-
into
What if
a
a tenant
year-long
keeps it
lease?
for 5 years?
I think that's a good question,
I
that
don't
we,
think-
you
I
know,
don't
one
think
of the
that's the
goals
idea, is it?
is to foster entrepreneurs and have them graduate from
Yeah.
the area and move into permanent space in the downtown. So we may want to look at an upper end timeframe for which someone
I
can
can see where
stay.
somebody would say, well, I need a location, and that's a great deal, $100 a month for just a location. So, I think we need to have a time. I'm not
It's a
sure what
good
that ought to
point.
be, but
And I'm assuming that the economic development staff will be maintaining contact with the members and checking in on their growth potential and plans and things like that, that would, and if you have a certain end date, firm, that you could continue to check in on them and press them on that issue.
well, there just needs to be some way, of somebody just parking,
Right. Sure.
yeah, that's a good point.
Okay. Marty anticipated one of my questions. And it makes sense that there's got to be some limitation. But secondly, has there been any buzz about this in the business community? Does it seem like people are getting excited about it?
I think so.
Yeah, we've had Main Street meetings there. We've also done some, Frostburg Business Club has had a kind of a mixer there as well. We did a photo shoot last week, which had Chamber of Commerce, Gen X members were participating in that photo shoot, and SCORE and SBDC have been in the space a few times to review it and are sharing that that space will be available to their members as well as a place for them to go.
And some of those soft launch activities is to generate a pipeline of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Once we're ready with the pricing plans, we want to review them with you first, of course. And when we're ready to roll those out, that we have a pipeline of entrepreneurs in the community that are already aware of the space.
Okay. My second question is, when the copier breaks down, who does the individual go to get the copier fixed? I mean, who's in charge?
So part of the membership kit will have the like how-to, so that would be kind of where we would point them first, how to kind of fix the copier, but if that doesn't resolve into any solution, then they will contact me, and then I can.
Okay, you're kind of the last person that has to,
You can fix copiers?
Well, I can try. But if not, I know a phone number to call.
Thank you.
We hope to launch in October, and that the memo talks about us coming back in September for the actual agreement documents that we would have with the members. And so that would be something we'd want you to review as a next step. We'll be working with the city attorney and to develop those types of agreement documents, as this is kind of a new area of work for the city.
Is there a reason why basic membership, you don't get unlimited access? Like, is there a reason to put time limits on that space for
We
basic
limited it
members?
just to test it out. I'd rather keep it lower than have it unlimited, and we don't need the unlimited space, so that was basically the thinking behind that.
I was just thinking about, the creative types who, might get that spark after 7 p.m. and have to run down to the bureau box and do their work. I don't know, just a thought.
Something for us to look at.
Yeah. Or it could be something you get feedback from people who are interested too, so.
Right.
All right. Any other questions, comments, feedback? All right, thank you very
Do
much.
we like 60 West Branding? That was.
Oh, yes, I think that's fine,
60
yeah.
West?
It's better than the old CVS. Thank you.
Thank you.
We are at city administrator comments, and we're not too far off our original
No, we are
time,
not.
so that's
Nothing
great.
additional.
Thank you. Council comments. Mr. Metzner.
Just briefly, council member Nye and myself and Don were at Main Street picnic. It was very nice, very hot, very hot. But otherwise, it was very nice and a pleasure to be there.
Wonderful. Ms. Nye?
Just thank you to all the volunteers that do a lot for this city. And my list is at home. When it rain came, that was it. Out the door, I went and forgot list and everything else. I'll catch up next week.
All right, thanks. Mr. Munson? No comments. Mr. Alshire? Mr. Brubaker?
No comments?
And I have none either, so with, no?
School starts tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yes.
School starts.
Every does.
Yeah, look out for the kids.
School bus, school bus.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you. We will be adjourned.